Welcome to the Marketing Mortgages Social for Brokers podcast. Today I have with me Amy Barton of Easy Peasy Mortgages, which I pronounced incorrectly when we were having a chat before. I called it EZPZ, which I think is quite cool, but Easy Peasy, it's something that you remember, which is fantastic. Now, we actually got chatting on Instagram and she dropped me a message to say it'd be quite interesting to talk through her story because almost fell into the mortgage advisor space quite recently after being a police officer for 15 years. She decided it was time for a change and became a mortgage advisor in March 2019, and then actually went completely on her own in December of 2023. And we'll get into the story of how that happened. Now, the reason I wanted to get Amy on the podcast is she's super consistent on social media with uploading content, interacting with people, and she even had her old accounts hacked where her personal profile was shut down by Facebook and she couldn't get them back, so she had to start again. But here she is posting consistently, trying to get those audience numbers back up. So today we're going to be talking all things social media, where she gets her ideas from, how she puts content together, and also which social media channels she finds most effective. So, Amy, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. So we're recording this in the summer holidays. So we was talking about juggling childcare in between appointments and everything, but a bit quieter during the summer holidays. So a bit of a chance to breathe, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed. As I said, my children a little bit older, so it makes it easier for me. But it's always a juggling task, and 6 weeks holidays gives me palpitations every year.
I think everybody's very similar. Yeah. I think being able to work from home eases that strain a bit, and especially the difference in industries. We were talking before we came on the podcast. It would have been impossible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was my main drive, if I'm being honest, and I do think things happen for a reason. I think I was looking in the police. I unexpectedly became a single parent with a 3-year-old and a newborn at the time, and just couldn't sustain the shift work. They were putting more demands on police officers as a whole. And I just couldn't sustain it. So I was starting to look for anything. Teaching was my main one at the time, which I'm thankful now I didn't fall into that. And without realising, I accidentally applied for a mortgage advising job with a recruitment company. And a lot of police colleagues will know that we get drummed into us, that we're de-skilled. We can't do anything apart from policing. That's all we can do.
Really? That's what they drill into you.
They drill it. So you think that you're worthless for anything else at all. But when I spoke to the recruitment agency worker, she was really positive. She was like, you can talk to people, you interview people, prisoners or victims. That's all you do with mortgages. So she gave me the push really to start my CMAP. And I think it's worth knowing that if I can do it, when I walked into my CMAP, someone was talking, all from finance backgrounds, were talking about secured and unsecured loans. I didn't even know what that meant. That's how clueless I was. So if I can do it, I think it's anyone can do it.
I love that you talk about there where the police kind of drilled it into you that was the only thing you could do, because I hear about it in the mortgage industry and the estate agency industry that I was back in, most definitely. The people at the top would drill into you that you're only good enough to work here. You can never do anything else. There's nothing better else out there, because they want to keep you in that industry. So if anybody is listening that is maybe part of a huge corporate company, and look, some people fit that mold and absolutely love it, and that's great. But if you are thinking that you'd never be able to make it on your own, or your boss tells you that you'd never be able to do anything else, please take Amy's story here, because it shows exactly that you can. You sat your CMAP whilst you were there, didn't you?
I did,
you went through all the exams.
I did. And I think for me is that as humans, we like our comfort zones. We like to feel content. However, I've done a couple of quite big changes in my life that's pushed me out of my comfort zone. And yes, for maybe 6 months after, it's felt slightly uncomfortable or slightly out of my depth, but always it's been good at the end of it. Change is good, and I think people don't want to have change, but it's always been beneficial for me.
Love that. That's positive attitude. That is just taking everything on board, and I find that with mortgage brokers, and that's why your training within the police lends to this, because you're always trying to find solutions. you've got to stay positive for the client, because
Yeah,
if you
you do.
kind of jump on a call and, oh, well, you've got bad credit, it's going to be tough,
Yeah.
and you're self-employed, it's going to be even worse. Well, you'd never do any business, would you?
No,
So
you wouldn't.
keeping that positive
Yeah.
mindset makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
So,
Positivity and honesty, I think, with clients is very important as well.
yeah,
Is
because it helps further down the line, doesn't it?
it
And
does.
especially with protection conversations as well. You've got to be honest up front if you think it is going to be tough for them to get a certain type of
Yeah.
cover. But we'll get into all of that shortly. So you apply for the job, you get the mortgage broker's job. What was the journey from there? Were you employed under a brand? How did that work?
No, so I've always been self-employed under my old company. Funny enough, there was another advisor there who was also an ex-police officer, so I kind of knew him through there. So if I'm being honest, I was there for I think 4 years, 5 years. It was worth its weight in gold because it taught me
Was
everything
it?
I needed to know about an industry that I had no clue about. You could do the exams, you can know on paper what to do, but in reality, it's a different kettle of fish. So I'll always be thankful of the company for giving that opportunity because they took a chance on me because I didn't know anything about it, and it was brilliant. I loved the office environment, loved it all.
That must have been tough going straight into self-employed. I thought you went into employed. So you went from getting a consistent wage from the police every
Yeah,
month. So you're talking about being a single parent, going
yeah,
self-employed. You've got
yeah.
no, you know what I mean? There's no safety net there of the monthly pay
No,
coming in.
I mean, listen, my poor family are constantly tearing their hair out with me because that they knew I was in a very stable, secure, employed job, a regular wage every single month, to doing something that was totally different to me. Could I sustain it? No one really knew. I'd kind of hedged my bets on the fact that people always need mortgages, so I'm not going to really ever lose out there. But yeah, it was a massive eye opener, and the things you have to learn coming with self-employed, as well as the whole industry in general, was a bit of a minor for
An
a
eye
lot of
opener.
people. Yeah,
Love it. Just complete change, just completely
yeah.
flipped it. Okay, so you started with the company. You've then decided to go fully self-employed with your own company, which is admirable, that in itself.
Yeah.
What does your normal week look like when you're running your business? Like, when do you do appointments? How do you fit social media in? How do you fit admin? Talk us through what your normal week looked like, Amy.
I'd like to say that there's a routine for it, but I think anyone who's self-employed knows that you're driven by the client and you're driven by the flexibility you can give them. So I think for me is obviously I work from, let's say, 9 till 3, then I have a break from maybe 3 till 8 because I've got children, so that's kind of
Yeah.
parenting time. And then any evening appointments, which I do quite often, I can do from 8 o'clock onwards. Same with any admin, I can do from 8 o'clock onwards. I've got no problem with that. I'm lucky and fortunate in the fact that I work from home. I can put my children to bed and have the luxury of still being able to work whilst at home. So for me, I'm very
Can be
fortunate for that,
different.
really.
It can
Yeah,
be
and I think
different week to week.
yeah, and I think that comes from being with my background with the police. There was no day the same, so I kind of quite like that, if I'm being honest. And with the social media, I have to feel inspired on the day to do something to do with social media. And I think what I do
Okay.
then is I'll record maybe 5 or 6 or 7, and you can schedule them. So I'll maybe do 6 that I've seen, or 5, or however many, and then I'll schedule them to come on at certain times of the day. And that seems
Oh,
to work
fab.
if I'm feeling a bit lulled with it all.
We'll get into that, the tools that you use as well, because I know a lot of people will be listening to this going, right, I'm in a very similar situation to Amy. I'm self-employed, work from home, and I don't quite know what tools to use or how to fit it into my daily routine. So we'll definitely
Yeah.
get into that. What would you say is the hardest part of running your business now, Amy?
I would say it's the having no security of when your pay is coming and having not a basic salary every single month is the hardest thing. And also, if I'm being honest, the having people around you. I work on my own. Obviously, I speak to people every day, and I love it. And I love speaking to people, but working on your own when you're a single parent, I'm single in general, it can be a little bit demoralising sometimes.
But yeah, you almost need like a network of people to, and there are lots of like the likes of Facebook groups out there and support
Yeah,
mortgage groups, but it's not the same as meeting in
no,
person.
it's not.
very similar to us. So there's myself, Hayley, and Sophie that work in the company, and the majority we work from home. But recently we've been meeting up just for a day together. Even if
Absolutely.
you're in the same room, just on the
Yeah,
laptops, it's so much easier to shout over the room. Oh, have you sorted
it is.
that? Or
It
do
is.
you
Yeah.
watch that last night? And it's.
Yeah.
Do you attend any networking events or anything like that to keep
Yeah.
your
So
sanity more than anything? To, you
yeah,
know what I mean? Speak to other
yeah.
business owners.
Obviously, I'm part of a network, a mortgage network. So anything that they offer, I jump on it straight away. So I
Okay.
go to all those ones. I've got a couple of mortgage advisor friends who were a couple of the school mums. I still speak to all the advisors that were with Choice or are still with my old company.
Oh, okay.
Um, and networking wise, yeah, I do it quite often. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't say I've seen the benefits of it, but sometimes, as you said, it's just I like talking. I think that's obvious. It's sometimes just nice to have a face in front of you can chat to.
Exactly. That's why we set up. Well, I set up this podcast because I went from being an estate agent in March 2020, got put on furlough, was sat at home, not speaking to anyone. And I
Yeah,
thought, well, because I used to sit in people's living rooms,
yeah,
very similar to the police, you'd be chatting to people. And I thought, well,
absolutely,
podcast is a perfect way to do it. And it's
absolutely.
just created something like this that helps others, which is great. And on
Yeah,
that networking thing, I'm working on something at the minute which might actually be live when we put this podcast live. Um, Working with a company trying to set up like a networking event just for mortgage advisors from any walk of
perfect.
networks or
Yeah,
DAs. So I'll most definitely, if
yeah,
anybody is listening to this and they want to know about it, then drop me a message and I'll send you details about the mortgage networking event we're looking at setting up. So, what would you say before we get on to social media is your favourite tool for running the business at the moment?
um, I would say my preferred tool is probably Instagram. I tend to,
Okay.
and also, if I'm being honest, I do like Instagram, but I'm very, I'm
Pen
old
and
school.
paper.
Pen and paper. You know, we have notebooks everywhere
Yeah.
all the
Bits
time.
of paper.
Yeah, if it's a paper everywhere, I'd love to say that I'm technological advanced to use a tablet, but I like a pen and paper.
Yeah. I've toyed with the idea of getting these. Have you seen the Remarkables that they do?
Yeah,
Which are really expensive for what they are,
yeah,
but more and more people are using them for presenting on like video calls. But I
yeah.
don't know if I can just get away from pen and paper. I find it so therapeutic crossing things off a list
Yeah.
manually.
And sometimes, I curse myself because I've probably got 5, 6 notebooks next to me, and I try and number them and have it chronological. But then you have a client from 6 months ago ring you, and you think, oh, I don't know what notebook that's in. So sometimes I curse myself, but I think again it stems back from my age probably, and also back in the police. That's what we did. We had notebooks, we had statement paper. It was all still, very much antiquated, which is what you stick with. You stick with what you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's been
Yeah,
an estate agent. I've still got an A4 diary, 1 page a day,
yeah,
but it's
that's
good
it.
because if I find, I remember speaking to somebody about March time and scribbling something down, I can refer back to them. But
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
let's get away from the old way of doing things then, and let's get into the social media.
yeah,
So when it comes to social media, one of the biggest problems that I see is mortgage advisors don't know what to post. Now,
mm,
you obviously have a great pool of ideas because you post
yeah.
consistently. Where do you get your ideas from, Amy?
Um, Obviously, I think it's fair to say that posting for mortgage advising reasons, not only are we regulated with certain things we can put on, but I'm going to say, let's be honest, it's not sometimes a particularly interesting topic.
It's quite boring, isn't it?
It's quite boring, yeah. So trying to find things that make it more interesting was a challenge for me. But I follow quite a few other mortgage advisor accounts myself, which gave me some inspiration. And I have a 13-year-old daughter who is very good
Okay.
on TikTok. CapCut wasn't her thing, but she's given me some guidance, and I just watched loads of. I took a course. It was only a free one for a week, which didn't really help. And then I just watched loads of tutorial videos on how to do things and learn it that way.
Okay. And
And I
where did
try
you watch those tutorials?
on
On
Instagram
TikTok itself?
mostly.
Oh, okay, on
Instagram
Instagram,
mainly.
right.
Yeah, and there'll be ones that they make you pay for, which you haven't paid, but then they'll be like, "Do you want to do this effect?" And it'll talk you through it, usually on CapCut.
Hmm.
And I'm not a whiz on technology at all. Anyone that knows me will know that. But if it's step by step, I can on the whole follow it. It might take me a couple of attempts, but I can on the whole follow it, which is what I've been doing.
That's really interesting because this is what I've been speaking to our clients about is social media now is being used as a research tool
It
rather
is.
than a entertainment tool.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line, isn't there, between education and entertainment, and you need to try and keep it informative
Yeah.
but fun as well.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you had watched all these videos on Instagram and they had been uploaded by um, Mary Smith Instagram tips, and you watched 20 of her videos, when she then say released a course, you'd be
Yeah.
much more inclined to buy Mary Smith's because she's given you
Absolutely.
all of the
Yeah.
tips up front. It's
Yeah.
exactly the same as mortgages.
Yeah.
If you were to, if somebody, John Smith, was watching Amy Barton's videos and you've given him so much value over 6 months of how a self-employed mortgage works,
Yeah.
what to do when you remortgage lands, what an SVR is, he's
Yeah.
much more likely to use you than Jones mortgages down the road because you've given him value for 6 months up front. And
Yeah.
that's all social media is. You're
Yeah.
providing them with value, aren't you?
And sometimes I don't even think it needs to go into the depths of that. It can sometimes just be as annoying, I suppose, as being relevant in
I
people's
like that.
minds. If you post every single day, even if it's not something that they're interested in, but it might just be like, oh gosh, she's a mortgage advisor. I've got a remortgage in 6 months. I'm going to drop her. That's sometimes all it is, which is why consistent posting, although the content itself might not mean anything to anybody, it might not be relevant to that person. It just means that you as a mortgage advisor are popping up daily, annoying people daily. But every now and again they'll think, oh, actually, I need some life insurance. So actually, I need to do that. I'm going to drop a line, which is why and how I find it snowballs that way.
I love that. I love the way that you've used annoy there as a positive. I'm going to write that down for the name of this podcast. Annoy people
I'm very good at
positively
that.
in a daily. But it's reminding people that you're
Yeah.
there. As you
Yeah,
said,
it
they
is.
don't necessarily have to take the content of that post
No.
in, but for you just to be present. So you were posting loads, you'd built up an audience. Talk us through, you don't have to go into details, but how did you feel when you logged in and you realised your accounts had gone?
Yeah, I mean, you see all these influencers, don't you, that kind of lose millions of followers. And I always think, oh, just get on with it, just start again. But as I said, I had two accounts. I think one had 500 on Facebook and one had 800 followers. And I built it up over time. But I was devastated when it happened. As I said, it took my personal and my business accounts away. However, what it did do is push me again out of my comfort zone. And my
Okay.
old account was very much stills and photos, etc. But what it did was make me think, what do I like to see on social media? Now I like talking. I like to see people talking about life experiences. So it pushed me out of comfort zone to do the talking things and myself put
Okay.
myself out there because I knew that's what I liked. So I guess other people might also like that as well. And I did a bit of a dip sampling with family and friends as to what they liked. And they were similar to me. So although at the time, as I said, I was upset about it, I just tried to take the positive from it again and start again, but put a different spin on it, which is what I've
Like
done.
that. Do you think you'd ever have started video if you had the comfort of your audience? Do you know what I mean? If you'd have carried on, would there have been a defining moment where you would have said, I'm going to do video? Or would you have gone, I'll get to it one day?
I think the latter, if you want me to be honest. I think, as I said, sometimes with changes in life, good or bad, it can push you to have a fire almost in your stomach
Hmm.
to do things out your comfort zone. And I think if I'd had the comfort of all the followers I had before, I probably would have just thought, oh, it's working. I'm getting followers. It's
Yeah.
working. Whereas because I had to start again and really think about it, it pushed me to do things which you feel silly. You get people saying, oh, that's cringe. But you know what? If it one person it helps, and that's all that matters to me. And I'm confident enough to know that I don't really care. I'm old enough to know that people are going to judge, but people are going to judge regardless of what you do. So it
Yeah.
doesn't bother me anymore.
And the people that don't judge you are the ones that you want as clients anyway. And it's very
Absolutely. Yeah.
interesting that you spoke to family and friends and said, what do you like? Because
Yeah.
You want clients like your family and friends. So that's a
Of course you
really
do.
good tip, actually, for
Mm,
people that are listening to this. Is if you're wondering what type of content to do, whether that
yeah.
be the topic of the post or the format of the post, go and
Mhm.
speak to some of your ideal clients and say,
Yeah.
what type of stuff would you like to
Yeah.
see from me? Your
Yeah.
client's going to feel loved because you're
Yeah.
asking them, and you're
Absolutely.
going to get some really good stuff off the back of it.
Mm. Yeah.
Love that. Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got your channel set up, your new channel set up. You've got this new fire in your belly. You've started to create videos.
Mhm.
If there's somebody out there that's new to video, what apps should they use, and what did you use when you started out?
Um, I started out just using Instagram and Facebook, but I find creating Instagram reels quite confusing if I'm being perfectly honest.
Oh, okay.
So I switched on to CapCut, which has you can search for templates. You can do lots of different effects on there, and that's probably my go-to. Again, learning through it, I now know how to. I think you can export them from maybe if there's a clip that you've seen, like I used an Austin Powers one. That
Okay.
was exported from Google into CapCut, so you can do it that way if there's not something there that you're looking for. I always try and think I don't watch much TV, but I always try and think about what trends are going on with social media at that time and piggyback off the back of that sometimes.
Okay,
Doesn't
love
always
that.
work.
And CapCut have got the templates built in,
They
haven't
have,
they? So I'd always
yeah,
recommend using the ones in CapCut because
yeah,
they're nice and easy.
yeah.
And trending audios and things. If you ever, this is something for everybody listening. If you go to a website called Hey Orca, so HEYORCA, every week they release a list of all the trending sounds and trending, which I say to people, don't just rely on trending music to get
Yeah,
your post to go viral. The content needs to be good, but
yeah.
it's a good basis. If you're doing exactly what Amy's doing here, just focusing on trending stuff, then that's a fantastic tool to use. So you then create it on CapCut. How do you get that post then onto the likes of Instagram and Facebook?
Now, don't take it to the gospel because I'm sure there's a quicker way to do it. However, I will download it off CapCut and
Yep.
then upload it onto Instagram. So you can still make certain tweaks on Instagram. So you can just do the basic green screen, put something on the back with the people, whoever it might be speaking, and you can still edit it on Instagram. So that tends to be what I do. So I'll put my logo on, I'll put any text that I want on Instagram and just do the bare bones on CapCut. But I have used CapCut, as I said, I've got one where I kind of walk under the word mortgage decline. That was solely created on CapCut. So they are very good. I think they've changed the format a little bit. That some of the features now are pro, so you have to pay for it. But it's a tool that you use. It's worth having.
Yeah, definitely. I think CapCut Pro, we have it for the desktop version. I think it's like £11 a month. So
Yeah, it's
really
not.
good investment for the access to things. But the reason I wanted you to talk about exactly how you post it is because I think with all this technology software subscriptions about,
Yeah,
it's almost paralysis by analysis, and some people don't
yeah,
start. Whereas exactly like Amy said there, create the video in CapCut, simply press download and then
mm,
upload it to Instagram. That's all you need to do.
yeah.
The
If I can
next
do it,
thing
anybody
then
can.
is sorry.
If I can do it, anybody can.
I love that. That's your motto, isn't it? If anybody can do it, if I can do it, anybody
Yeah.
can. When you then schedule the posts, what software do you use? Do you schedule them directly into Instagram or do you use another piece of software?
No, so Instagram has got a scheduling format, so you can go into it, and I think under advanced settings, there's a ticky box or a radio button that you can just put schedule it, and then it'll just ask you the day and the time. So, for example, if I'm feeling not very inspirational, I'll maybe do 5 posts at a time and then just schedule them for each day, and that means it's done then and it's sorted for the week. You have to be careful; it does have glitches, but it is worth doing.
Yeah, and that schedule tool, as Amy said there, if you've got so much on Tuesday to Friday, you could just spend a few hours on Monday creating everything, scheduling it, and you know then. And it almost half the battle sometimes with social media is you wake up, you get ready for the day, and then you're like, you feel guilty. I haven't posted to social media now. Yeah, and it gets on your mind, and then it feeds
Mm,
into everything else. Whereas if you know it's done, You can just block that out of your mind. It's done for the week. So utilize tools like that through Instagram Scheduler or Better Business Suite Scheduler to really help you. So once you've then posted the content, obviously you start to get interaction on there. How long do you spend interacting with people on your channel, Amy?
If you want me to be honest, not a lot. And the reason I say that is because there isn't many comments on my posts. I'll get likes on there, I'll get the views, but comments wise, there isn't that many. If there is a comment, I will always comment back, because I don't want to just be a company. I want to be a person behind the company. So I will always comment back if there's any sort of comments on there. But on the whole, unless there's interactions like that, I wouldn't. Obviously, you get various DMs, which I'll always reply to. But I'll always share it as a reel and a story if I can. So it kind of keeps people doubling, if that makes sense.
Increases the reach. So anybody listening, so a reel will be a video on your grid, so on the main profile. A story is something that lasts for 24 hours. So you can almost share that video to your stories to try and reach more people. Okay, fab. So we've spoken about social media. Now, before we get into the strategy question, we like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice. Which charity did you want us to make the donation to, Amy?
The Epilepsy Society, please, Chris.
We will make that, no problem at all. Fab. Okay, so we're going to pretend that you've moved to the north of Scotland. You've got a laptop, a mobile phone, and internet connection. What would you do to start generating new mortgage business?
Exactly what I'm doing now, if I'm being perfectly honest. We talked about flexibility, I know, before we came on today, and the joy of this job is that you can do it anywhere in the world. A phone can reach someone across the world. It can reach somebody next door to you. That is a luxury that we do have with our job. Same with a laptop, Skype calls, etc. We can do all that at the touch of a button. I would say being self-employed is that you don't have that, I'm going to shut my laptop down, out of office on. It doesn't happen. You are constantly working, but you can do it wherever. So I've been abroad this year. Laptop came with me. I went to Paris in April. Laptop came with me. If anything pops up, it doesn't take 2 seconds in anywhere you can to just boot up your laptop and sort it out. So I'll be doing exactly the same as what I'm doing now.
So kind of create, I suppose at the beginning, you're not going to have any leads. So you're going to be creating, or you can create 20, 30, 50 videos and schedule them for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
And have them. So exactly the same approach as you're doing now. I love that. Making the videos, using free stuff like CapCut and Instagram Scheduler to create that content and get it out to people.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be a cost to do things like this. It can just be that you're just personal and that you're human behind there as well. I think it's the other thing. You need to, I try and mix mine up with pictures of my clothes that I'm wearing because I like clothes, and it's just making you seem like a person rather than a company.
A human being. Love it. Well, Amy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If anybody does want to connect with you and have a chat, where's the best place for them to reach you?
If they have a look at my Instagram, which is, I think it's easypeasy_mortgages, all my contact details are on there, email, phone number, etc. WhatsApp me, email me, phone me, carrier pigeon me, it doesn't matter to me.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on, Amy, and thanks for spending your time on the podcast today.
Thank you.